everybody, how is it going? My name is Lucas, and I have just picked up one of the coolest pieces of gear I think I've ever picked up that kind of completely changed how I felt about my real tube amps, and it's actually from Fractal Audio, believe it or not, the makers of the XFX. So let me explain a little bit to you here of exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Fractal X Load, aka the LB-2 is what they call it. And essentially what it is it's a load box. It isn't necessarily special from other load boxes, but essentially what a load box is it takes the load from your amp and it allows you to pass that signal to any other place that you would like. For example, like a audio interface if you want to record it into your computer, or in my case, I'm running it to my XFX, which my XFX is already connected to my Claret Focusrite that I have right here. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking my amp and I'm plugging it into the Fractal X Load, and then from the X Load I'm using the out of the X Load. I'm using the unbalanced out. Now the X Load does have a pure balanced out. You can use that with an XLR, but you have to power it. You can power it with like a -9 volt, sort of the same thing that power pedals. You can power it like that, or you can power it phantom power. Either way, however you want to do it. But I'm just using it unpowered, which it works absolutely great, because that's what you heard in the intro. It's unpowered. I'm using the unbalanced out. From there, I'm trying not to get this too confusing. So from the unbalanced out on the X Load, I'm running that into input 4 on my XFX, and then in my signal chain, I have output 4 as a start, and then I just have a little EQ block, which I just pulled some mids out, the 250 and 500. I have my cab, and then I run it to my output 1, which is the same output that I use if I plug into my XFX normally, and that's set up to run from SPDIF to run to my interface. I know that's kind of confusing, but basically I'm taking my amp, running it into my XFX, and it's the same setup that I've always had before. I have all my hours in there, and it absolutely works. The cool thing about the X Load that a couple of other load boxes don't necessarily have is you can pick which curve you want. The way an amp interacts with the cab, it interacts with the speakers that are in it, and that's what the X Load has on the front of it. The little switch, you have a little DI knob for how much signal you want to push out of it. If you want the definitive lowdown on everything load box wise, you need to go watch a video from my guy Rock Guitar Vibes. He went in depth on every popular load box there is, and he did each of them by themselves, and he did a final comparison. It's like part 12 that he did. Now, if you search for Fractal X Load on YouTube, Fractal X Load review, you're going to get some from Brett Kingman, you're going to get some from Sonic John from Sonic Drive, my man Leon Todd, Miko from In My Sound Lab. You have some other ones in there, and you have some from Camilio, which he's an awesome dude too. He does a lot of great stuff. The one you're looking for is right here. Final episode 12 of the Ultimate Low Box. That is what you want to look for. And he breaks it down like very, very, very well, and he goes super in depth. The video currently only has 3.6k views, which it needs more views. And this is kind of what made me decide on one. I know I'm yapping a lot, but I promise I have a point. So to get this load box, they don't have a lot of them for sale, right? So I searched for one, and the only ones I could find was I found one for $500 on Guitar Center used, which is way too much because brand new, they're $300. Fractal's currently out of them right now. I'm filming this on August 18th, 2024. They said they would have some new ones like now in the middle of August, but they currently aren't up yet. You have to get them used. You can't really buy them new. New, they're $300, and I wasn't paying $500 for one. I found mine on Music Go Round, which I've never heard of that site before. I asked my friends about it. He said, yeah, it's a cool site. People just sell stuff to them. It's kind of almost like a pawn shop type of place, sort of, but a little bit more organized. It was listed for $250. I got it for like $275-ish shipped. The pictures of it was really kind of, it was scuffed up for some reason. I don't know why. Like the top had some like white scratches on it, and then the outsides of it was a little bit chipped. But it came to my house, and I plugged it in and it worked absolutely well. So the point in me telling you is it's built like a tank. It's really heavy, and it's very simple, but it like completely changed how I felt about my amp. So I'm going to do a little comparison for you, right? I'm going to show you my other load box I have, but you can't really see it. It's sitting on my 5150 combo. I have a 2 notes Captor. I have the old one. And I do have a Captor built into my Revv, which you heard in the beginning. I had the Captor X is built in the Revv, and I have the old Captor back there. I'm going to literally just unplug what I have in the X Load, and I'm going to plug it into the Captor. and I'm going to do the Captor first, and then I'm going to go back to the Xload. And then I'll explain to you my little story of why I even wanted to get one. So let me do some switcheroos real quick, and then you'll hear both demos, and I'll yap a little bit more, talk about it, because I know everyone out there loves to come yapping. Now that you've heard both load boxes roughly back to back, the only thing that changed was the load boxes. Literally every single thing else in this chain was absolutely the same. The only thing that I changed was the load boxes themselves. Now, I was perfectly fine with my captors, all right? I've loved two-note stuff for a while. I've used them for a very long time. The main difference between the two-note stuff and the captor itself and a lot of other load boxes is their speaker curves. The two notes stuff has a very flat curve because it's meant to not alter the curve, but it's meant to kind of be shaped with the two note software to give you the sound that you want. And it's directly from two notes themselves that I'm saying this, and it's meant to work with a lot of different amps. The way that the Xload works is it's basically like it gives you two different curves to choose from, but it does it in a hardware manner, as to where the captors, they have a very flat curve, and you can kind of like tweak them with the software itself. Roughly, you're technically not affecting the curve. Let me get this very correct. You're not affecting the curve that comes out of the little box itself with the captors. You can slightly do that with the Xload because you have a button on it that does it, so it's more hardware based. And the whole reason I bought the Xload is because I did a demo of my Lichterlearn King and Yellow pedal, and my little intro riff that I was doing, I noticed this really weird high end on it. And that is weird for me because I typically don't boost my high end on any amp demo or anything that I do. I try to dial my stuff in like darker because I have a bad habit of sometimes making things too bright. It's just a human thing. Whenever we hear something bright, we think it sounds better. So I heard this really weird high end stuff going on, and I'm like, oh, that is from my captor, isn't it? And turns out it kind of was. And it like bothered me so much that I'm like, I need a new load box. I literally just woke up one morning and did this, and I searched for it, and I found the Xload, and I bought it. And I understand the setup that I have here is not the cheapest setup in the world. I'm just so used to using my Access Effects for everything that's just what I'm running it through, because it just workflow works a lot better for me. But with the load box, you can run it to your audio interface, and you can pull up any like IR little that you want. You don't necessarily have to have an Access Effects for it. Now, there's other cool stuff out there like the Saint Rock load box that kind of has everything in one, and there's some other load boxes out there like I know the Shure does it. I know the Freyet has it too, which it kind of has IRs already built in. But for $300, the Xload is absolutely amazing, and it sounds great. The main thing that I love about it so much is it made me love my amp even more. For some reason, I feel like I have more gain now, and it sounds more accurate just in general. Like, even playing the Access Effects models of the Revv, I have a Revv 100R Mark III back here. That's what we're playing through, you've been hearing. The models sound so much more accurate on the Access Effects now from playing it here, and like the Xload just made me love the amp so much more. I'm trying to put it into words, but like the low end on it is so much better. It's so like huge and tight sounding. It sounds so great, and I feel like I have more gain now. I don't know if that's in my head, but I just feel like the amp is its true self now. I just feel like it has more gain. I know from all of the stuff that I've like listened to and saw and heard that the Xload tends to have a little bit more mids in there some kind of way. I think it might be just because of how the hardware is, or just kind of how the different curve is. I did kind of notice that a little bit. Like, I had a little bit more mids, and using the Xload, I completely dialed in my amp differently than what I normally would with my Captor. Now, I had a little bit stuff done in the Captor software and the built-in on the amp, where a Captor X, where I like changed the frequencies, and I scooped a little bit of stuff out, which that obviously affected it. But I'm gonna do a video where I compare the Captor X built in my amp versus the normal Captor versus the Xload. Now, for both the Captor and Xload, 100 watts is the max for it, and it is 8 ohm. So if you have an amp that's over 100 watts, which my 100 or technically is, it's 120, you don't really have to worry about it. Basically, just do not turn the master volume all the way up to 11 and you'll be fine. I mean, you can put it loud, but just be careful. Don't push it too hard, because that's when you kind of get into trouble and you'll blow stuff, is when you push it too hard. And obviously read the manual for everything, and obviously be safe and make sure you match the correct ohms. But both of them are 8 ohms, and I'm using the 8 ohm jack out of my 100R running into both. And I got it like 2 weeks ago, and I've been playing my amp more than my Axe-Fx, which is kind of like backwards for me, because I'm typically like just come in, plug in, and play. But it's so easy and simple the way everything's set up, because my workflow is already there. I'm literally just literally the only thing I have to do is just move my input jack from Axe-Fx to my board right here. So the way I have things set up, it's still much in a very traditional way. So I have stuff that's running in front of the amp, and it just runs to it. So it's still in a traditional manner. You can set this up. There's videos on this. You can set this up to where you use one of the ins. So you use the in and output 4, and you run that essentially to like the front of the amp, so that way you can still like use effects, and you can still use a looper and from the Axe-Fx in front of it, but you lose a little bit of input. Like, I tried it, I didn't exactly like the way it sounds, so I'm doing it in a traditional way now, to where I'm inputting into my board right here into the front, and then that's running into my amp, and then the out of the amp, it's everything I explained before. I don't want to get super deep into it, but overall, I think the Xload is one of Fractal's best products that no one really talks about much anymore. Because if you go watch that shootout from my dude, what is it? I forgot his name again. If his name is the Rock Guitar Vibes, if you go watch that shootout, I'm gonna spoil a little bit for you. The Xload kind of won. It was like number one basically in everything, and he shoots out all of them, and he goes super deep into it. It was the Freyet and the Xload are the one that won. Now, just kind of getting a little side note, if you want a power amp too, the Freyet literally has everything you want. It's a lot like the Xload. You can use it in passive mode if you want, which I'm doing right now. When I mean passive, I mean non-powered is what I mean, because this is a reactive load, which you want a reactive load because they sound a lot better. You can use it without the power amp on the Freyet. You can use it without the power amp if you want, but you can use it with the power. You can use like all kind of stuff with it. And for the price, I know that for the price of Xload, it's very hard to beat. Only $300, and you can run any amp right into your computer and record with it. And I know people love using cabs and moving the air, because, brother, gotta use the tubes and move the air, brother. I know that, but for me, like, I can't. I don't have, like, this room is tiny that I'm filming this in right now, right? And I literally have everything on a 212 cab. It's the biggest I can go. I would make myself go deaf using a cab, right? Cab's kind of a luxury. But these days, like, there's so many good IRs, and it's so easy to get a tube-powered amp into your computer to record with. Why not do it? So overall, if you are looking for a load box, definitely get the Xload. I mean, regardless of how you're going to do it, or if you've never used Fractal stuff before, it's so well made. It's so simple. It's really good. It's one of Fractal's things that, like, no one talks about. I think it's their best product. It made my amp feel so much different, and I'm trying to put it into words, but it's something you really have to like hear and feel. It made me love my amp so much more. And like I said before, I've been playing my amp like so much more, because it's so much easier, and it sounds so good. And it's like, I just didn't want to go back to my Axe-Fx, like I said before, I'm a huge Axe-Fx person. I played almost all the time, but now that I'm pretty much using it as like a cab loader, it's still really good too. So overall, if you're looking for a load box, you need to get the Xload, right? Just trust me, just get it, and you're not gonna regret it. Especially if you're a person who is like very much strictly tubes, and you play tubes all the time, and you still want that feel from it. It captures it very accurate. So overall, I hope this helped you guys looking for a load box. Definitely go watch that video from Rock Guitar Vibes. It's very good. It's very deep. He dives into like everything you can possibly think of. He shows you all the graphs, all the resistive loads from everything. Like, he goes into autistic detail with it, and it's very, very, very good. So overall, guys, I hope this helped you. I hope that little sound bite I put in there helped you too. If you thought this video was cool, leave me a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. If you've never been here before, subscribe, please. That would also be very thankful for me. It's free, and I can get you some cool stuff that I'm going to be doing. And like I said, I'm also going to be doing, I know it's been done before, but I'm going to do it myself. You know, Captor versus Captor X versus Xload. I'm going to do that just so you can hear a kind of comparison in high gain. So I hope this video was helpful to everybody who came to check it out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.